So a little bit of context about myself. I live in Austin, Texas. I sit on the board of Mainstay as a board of advisors. And you know, I'm so humbled and privileged that Haj Jalal is here, Sayyid Haider is here from the Mainstay organization, where are the sisters from Mainstay here as well, and it's awesome to see everybody. The topic that has been I was actually going to be speaking on AI, but there was a conflict with my talk upstairs, so that's why they switched me around. This topic is also right up my alleyway, because I believe, so let's take an example of JCC where we are right now. Toronto has around total population at ISIJ, around 7,000 people. That's the size of this center. And if we take that as an extreme example of a large, very large center, and then we go to a very small center, for example, that has maybe 50 people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed all these communities with the capacity and the potential to bring about leaders. And our challenge as scholars and people who work in the corporate world is to find those leaders and then empower them to be able to take our communities to the next generation. So, can I click this for my slides? Okay. Ali is getting my slides ready. So my topic for today is Islam Incorporated. And believe it or not, Sheikh Khalili and I came up with a name within a few seconds, right? We talked about what I should talk about, and he said, how about Islam Incorporated? And I said, mashallah, perfect. So let me break this topic down into two words. Islam Incorporated. And here we go. Okay, so I need to see my laptop is upstairs, so I'm going to borrow this one. Building, so this is the elongated version of my topic. And again, Sheikh Khalili, thank you for this breakdown. Building meritocratic Islamic institutions. That is a mouthful, right? And I know it's towards the end of the day, it's around 7 p.m., and so these are heavy words, so let me just break it down. Building meaning it's work in progress. As non-ma'asum, who will make mistakes, we will never get to the perfect stage, so we try and get as perfect as we can. So it's a continuum building. Meritocratic, this is really important because when we build Islamic institutions, and this is the baseline of what I want to talk about, is how we get leaders in communities who have an Islamic mindset, yet are willing to take the community forward. I have just been elected as NASIMCO president 2 weeks ago. NASIMCO has, for example, 27 centers under it. And altogether, we represent 17,000 people. Now, our parent body, World Federation, is a Khoja institute, but we, NASIMCO, are not a Khoja institute because we have Khoja as well as non-Khoja members. But how do you measure the progress of our communities? And the last part, Islamic institutions, this is, and we are so privileged that if we look around the world right now, we are really blessed in so many ways. If you look at the carnage that is being caused in the Middle East, if you look at the clown that we have, and I'm American, and I'm sorry to my Canadian friends, we absolutely do not want to usurp you as the 51st state, but I must apologize because of the clown that we have. You know, this is the environment in which we live, and yet we have made a conscientious decision to live in the West, right? And so we have to basically work with the things that are around us to try and take our Islamic organizations to the next level. Yet for many of us who work in the corporate world, you know, we measure our progress. We have metrics, right? And so how do we take some of those key concepts from corporate world and bring it into our Islamic institutions? And this is one of the reasons, by the way, that I love being a part of Mainstay. Because Mainstay, when you listen to their spiel, and it's an elevator pitch that I've tried to perfect, and it's always so difficult, right? And the sisters laughing because they know we talk about this all the time. What is the elevator pitch for Mainstay? And building local awareness, and then regional, and then global, right? So we got to perfect it at the local level. And this is the challenge that we have, and this is what I wanted to talk about. I'll give two examples, and then I'll finish off with a final summary. In Surah Yusuf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us a very good idea of what it means to be a leader. And I want to mention these 4 ayats, and then I'll move on to the next examples. Right off the bat, Yusuf has a dream. This is one of the first things I tell when I'm talking in our center in Austin, is I tell our young ones to have a dream, have a vision. Start off with a big vision, a big thing that you have in mind. Nothing wrong with having a big dream, a big vision. And then in Surah Yusuf, the second ayah, the fifth ayah, I'm sorry, where Yusuf says that, he tells his dad, I have a dream. And his dad says, don't share your dream with your brothers. Shaitan is your enemy. It's really beautiful. Allah right there tells you through Nabi Yaqub to Yusuf, know your enemies. Your brothers are your family, but Shaitan is your enemy. We have this upstairs, we've been discussing about a lot of politics that we have in our communities. We have to know who our friends are and who our enemies are. Very important. Third principle of leadership from the Quran. In ayah number 7, where Yusuf says that, and I'm going through this really fast because I want to finish it up because we have so many wonderful speakers after me. Have a guide, a moral compass. And this is another key thing that leaders, especially those who work in the corporate world, right? You're told what is your mission, what is your vision, but have a moral compass. And this is really important when we come to the Islamic mindset. And last but not least, the story of Yusuf is where his brothers conspire against him, and their whole argument is what? Nahnu usba. We are the larger group, right? We are in numbers, we are powerful. This group think, this echo chamber is really dangerous. And it happens to us as well in our organizations, especially in Islamic organizations as well. Because we're non-profit, right? So nobody gets paid, so we bring our egos. And then our egos get inflated. And then we're in an echo chamber, and I say, I'm right. And the other one says, yeah, of course you're right. And then the third one says, yeah, we're all right. No idea that we're actually on the wrong path, right? And so this concept of being in an echo chamber and this groupthink is extremely dangerous, and we need to be aware of it. The second example that I wanted to give from the Quran, and then I'll wrap it up with my final slide, the fourth slide, is in Dhul-Qarnayn. And I don't want to go into the whole story of Dhul-Qarnayn, but I'd given this presentation in IABA, and I just want to pick out 2 points from this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives Dhul-Qarnayn sabab, resources. And then with these resources, and he travels throughout the world, right? Now Dhul-Qarnayn, obviously, east, west, he went to all parts of the world. When he met the second group, it's really interesting. When he met the second group, he saw them and he realized that there's nothing that he could do for them. And he moves on. One key thing that we as Muslim leaders also need to know is when to cut our losses. Sometimes we try so hard to try and resurrect something, and it is not worth resurrecting. We need to understand, cut our losses, and move on. And it's a really difficult concept, but it needs to be done. And the third group that he meets, and this is the second point that I wanted to make from Dhul-Qarnayn, is division of labor. Many times you have people that try and take on stuff on their own, and in the corporate world we are told, right, find your lane, stick in your lane, stay in your lane. And then everybody goes in their lane, and like that we're able to progress as a community. So my last slide is, I think it's my last slide, my second last slide. My topic for today has been Islam Incorporated, how to bring corporate mindset into Islamic organizations so that we can move them at a professional level. And so it's a good balance of the dunya and the akhirah. I have a friend of mine, and when I bought my first car wash and I went into his office and I sat down, and he had a big sticker on his door, and he says, I work for the Lord because the rewards are out of this world. And I always remember that, right? That he kept saying that. He said, I work for the Lord because the rewards are out of this world, right? This balance of dunya and akhirah is beautiful, and it is what we're all aspiring for, and it's something we need to inculcate in our youth leaders. That we're working in this dunya, but the rewards are in the akhirah, inshallah, right? Spiritual sustenance, we've been talking about it upstairs as well. It's a really important concept that we need to find. When our kids leave madrasa, the critical age when we really need them to connect, we have nothing to offer them, right? And so this is really, really important, spiritual sustenance. Volunteer work for a non-profit is really, really hard, and so we need to get better at this, get good governance, and take our organizations at a much higher level. And finally, this East meets West. We just had a lot of youth that spoke upstairs, and mashallah, it was amazing. It was phenomenal to see the potential that lies in our youth. We need to nurture this and encourage them so that they can step up, and inshallah, I have this example that I gave. When I became leader of NASIMCO, I was asked to give my mission, my vision, and I said one of my visions is that I want to be a one-term president. because by the time my term is over, I want to identify the next set of leaders to take over the work that I'm doing. And it's possible. We just got to find the youth, pull them in, and give them the incentives to say that this is doable in a professional way. My last slide, inshallah, and then I'll turn it over to the next speaker. Data-driven, KPI. We do this at work, right? Key performance indicators. Let me give you a simple example. When I went to Austin, our center, and I asked them, have you grown from last year? You know the metric we use? How many slippers are outside in Ashura? That's our metric. Oh, we had 400 slippers. Next year, 420 slippers. Oh, we've grown, mashallah. Right? This is the only metric that many centers have. How many people come for Ashura? We can do much better than this. If we're, for example, a metric is how many people are praying Fajr on time. Let's start this year, today, how many people pray Fajr on time. Next 6 months, let's do another survey. How many people pray Fajr on time? MashaAllah, we have gone by 5%. I mean, then we know that our speakers are working, our content is relevant, right? So KPI, metrics to measure the growth of our community. Accountability, good governance. How many centers, unfortunately, fall short on this, right? We have principles at work, we can bring them into our organizations. Embrace technology. The youth love this, but we're so fearful. Our talk upstairs here as well has been about AI, mashallah, and I don't want to reinvent that, but there's so much to embrace there in our Islamic institutions. Data-driven decisions. We do this at work all the time, right? You have a blue and a green. Which one gets more traction? The blue. Okay, we're going to make our theme blue. Simple things like that, right? Multiple hats. How many of our organizations wear, Hajlana, where are you? How many hats do you wear? I don't know, 5, 6? I don't know. Sometimes I forget, right? Multiple hats. We need to find a way to be able to bring in pools of volunteers that have the talents that can help out. 3 other things that I say, these are qualities that I always tell the youth to have. 1, grit, don't give up easily. Non-profit work is very, very difficult. Don't give up easily. Sabr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us this quality. We just have to find it in us to deal with all the hardships that we get. And standards. I cannot stress this enough. And my last point, I don't know why we tend to set the bar here and then we tippy-toe over it and we say, mashallah. We need to set the standard really high so that we have to jump over it. And this is what I think will raise our standards and our communities to a higher level. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.